slavery. And now look at how dangerous it made me, calling me a madman. Cause I'm strong and bold with this gun full of knowledge of the lies he told.
So my argument has been for a long, long time that mental disorders as defined by them do not exist. And the purpose of this was to make people realize that these people don't understand what they're talking about. Now, they say they do not know what causes mental disorders. They say that they have theories about serotonin imbalances and chemical imbalances and so on and so forth. So these neuroleptic drugs especially have killed many people, 500,000 a year, on record. So, results from trials of schizophrenia drugs are also disappointing, he argues, and those for ADHD are uncertain. The short-term relief seems to be replaced by long-term harms. Animal studies strongly suggest that these drugs can produce brain damage, which is probably the case for all psychotropic drugs, he writes. So, my arguments have been validated by studies. Now, if you believe the studies from big pharmaceuticals, which is the most profitable industry, then you are very, very stupid. You are among the minority of Americans who are just completely out of touch with the reality of the situation. Just completely out of touch. You should be shot. You know, unless you keep your opinion to yourself, you should be shot. Because when you think of something that's so horrible and 500 million people a year are dying because of the stupidity of people such as yourself, you should be shot. Absolutely. You should be shot, tortured, shot again until you're dead. Repeat the process until this traitor to humanity and God is murdered. Now, I read the excerpt from the Guardian articles, May 2015, Sarah Bosley, health editor. It's titled, "Psychiatric Drugs Do More Harm Than Good, Says Expert." Okay? So in the least, we should be giving people the choice whether or not to take these drugs, not the system. You know, would you give the system the choice whether or not to fuck your child up the ass? You know, the experts say that it's healthy. I mean, you know, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line if not at pseudoscience and things that physically harm and traumatize people? It is traumatizing to be force medicated. Anyone who says otherwise is a fucking moron who should get shot, tortured, and shot again, repeating the process until they are dead. Let's face it. So, now what does that say about the people who participate in the covert drugging of people? Now, how much worse is it when they're a political dissident? Okay? On record, there are special interest groups that lobby the government to get their way. On record, a bunch of white people and many Jews vote on mental disorders, and some of them on record are consultants for big pharmaceutical companies, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Abbott, Bayer, and so on and so forth, and Johnson & Johnson, and so on and so forth. Okay? On record, they vote drugs into, they vote mental disorders into the DSM, and usually there are drug recommendations in the physician's death reference and other, you know, and drugs A to Z. I have the book in my, you know, in my garage, you know, and different recommendations for what drugs to give these people, you know. And if people do not see the harm in that, they're fucking stupid. Yeah, and I'm going to address the opposition view. The opposition view will say, well, this is one random guy in Denmark. No, you know, by now you'll see on the side, 175 interviews with lawyers, doctors, psychiatric, you know, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so on and so forth. There are many people who say the same thing as this one random doctor in Denmark, who actually has looked into it more than almost any doctor that has come out and reported anything, you know? And on top of that, he's not investigating himself, so to speak. You know, if a rapist, if someone was accused of rape, and they say, you know what, I've investigated myself and I found that there is no rape taking place. No rape ever occurred. These concerns are unwarranted. How ridiculous would that be? If a drug dealer investigated himself and said, we have found that cocaine isn't as harmful as people said it is, therefore I haven't broken any laws. How ridiculous would that be? But yet you people find no problem. You have no qualms, you have no qualms with big pharmaceutical companies. You have no issue with it. Investigating their own drugs. No problem with it whatsoever. And the FDA, who then, when they retire, they work for the big pharmaceutical companies that they were regulating, you have no problem with that either. But yet, you would say that I am wrong. And a lot of you should be ashamed of yourselves. A lot of you Tupac fans who had to, a lot of you black militants, you had to have me play the clip from Tupac for you to realize what you're doing is wrong and that you should stop. Calling me a madman because I'm strong and bold. Therefore, don't turn to mental health. You disarm people when you turn to mental health. They lose their gun rights 99% of the time for the rest of their life because they never go to court to get them back. And if they did go to court, they probably wouldn't be able to get them back. So what the Black Panther Party stood for was against oppression. These are the main things. There's little side issues that some might disagree with, but the main issues, standing against oppression, the right to arm themselves. When they tried to pass a law banning open carry and carrying unarmed weapons in public, they went there armed to protest the proceedings, okay? The procedures, the proceedings, the process. They went there to say, no, you shouldn't ban it, and then the government banned it. So what you so-called black activists are fighting for and pretending that you're some kind of Panther-style militant, that you somehow have things in the best interest of the black community, are the three main things the Panthers were against. One was oppression, institutional oppression, institutional discrimination, especially against political dissidents, especially against black people. Two, taking, the gun rights away. Black Panther Party for what? The Black Panther Party for what? The Black Panther Party for self-defense. But you sit there and say, there's structural problems with mental health. It's because the mental health system is completely broken and should not be used to oppress any quote-unquote criminals. As soon as you turn to the mental health system, say they committed a misdemeanor, which won't cause them to lose their firearms. If they turn to mental health, if you use mental health on these people instead, then they lose their right to protect themselves for the rest of their life. The Black Panther Party for self-defense. All of you need to be silent. This is what I'm the expert in. You want to talk about experts and who knows what? I'm the top martial artist in America, specifically in self-defense, combat, and sparring. I'm the expert. And for you sniveling dogs to diminish the ability of black people to defend themselves and pretend that you're doing it in the best interests of black people is absolutely appalling. Absolutely. They were against government oppression. They were against taking away guns. And they were absolutely against drugging political dissidents, or as Tupac would have said, calling me a madman because I'm strong and bold. Or they were against COINTELPRO. These are all in the same category, number 3. They were against COINTELPRO. They were against the government using sneaky means to break down political dissidents. But you sit there and say, well, these people have mental health issues, when it's a very small issue. And just like it said in the article, only when they're acute issues. Okay? Now, when we leave it up to a bunch of out-of-touch Uncle Toms, whites and Jewish psychiatrists who have no love for us. You never gave a fuck about a black teen dying. Quit lying, as Paris has said in his rap song. They never gave a shit about us. These house niggas on the left that want to talk shit, and these white racists and Jews on the right, and the bootlicking Jews on the left, they never cared about us. But you're going to leave it up to their discretion when they have no idea what they're talking about in the first place. It's shameful. It is absolutely shameful. This chemical warfare against our people. Biological warfare against our people. In case you didn't hear me the first time. Animal studies strongly suggest that these drugs can produce brain damage, which is probably the case for all psychotropic drugs. Okay, if somebody's acting all like this, and I sock them in the face, and they're like, okay, and they start, they're not hyperactive, right? They're not quote unquote manic because I socked them in the fucking face. But when I did that, I caused them brain damage. So am I going to sock them in the face 2 times a day? 2 times a day. What's going to happen? Over a long period of time, what's going to happen? Ironically, my dad, did surgery on a famous boxer who had some kind of tumor or something in his brain as a result of the damage from boxing. So we can play stupid to feed these big industries and pretend like they don't do serious harm to the brain. We can pretend like that, TBI, traumatic brain injury. I call it PBI, psychiatric brain injury, caused by psychiatric drugs. We can pretend like a bunch of fucking bootlicking cowards that we are not stabbing our people in the back like sniveling dogs when we side with these so-called black activists who should be ashamed of themselves. Hegelian dialectic, control both sides. You think they're gonna magically miss controlling the black movements? People like Jesse Jackson and fucking Al Sharpton and them and everyone else you see on TV. You think they would miss that? Look at we have Martin Luther King Day, and you think that they're not going to try to control black activists? Oh gosh, that's fucking funny. That's hilarious. Anyway, I'm gonna play the Tupac clip for you one more time. Play 2 more clips to show you about Uncle Toms and blacks and masonry and racism in masonry and how they don't fight fair. Because they know I'm the top martial artist in California. Excuse me, in America. And they're just a bunch of bitches. Thank you.
Always have to be the one to pay for it. Always. It's just, these people do not believe in a fair fight. They do not join a race that they have not fixed. They don't take those kind of risks.
Okay, I've got you.
Speaking of a fair fight, there you have it. William Cooper interviewing 32nd degree Freemason. And so, they don't enter a competition they haven't fixed. They don't believe in a fair fight. I've shown you many ways that I'm not just making this up. I have no reason to make this up. They are covertly drugging me and sabotaging me. And they don't want to admit that I'm the top martial artist. And I've offered $3,000 in a time where 80% or so of Americans are in debt and people need the money. No one can beat me in a fair fight. But these people who have propped sissies and weirdos as the quote-unquote top martial artists of America know damn well that I am the top martial artist in reality in America.
Nothing but slavery, and now look at how dangerous it made me, calling me a madman, cause I'm strong and bold with this scuffle and knowledge of the lies he told.
I'm here to tell you that you are not welcome in the lodge. You never will be, and you never have been welcome in the lodge. This especially goes for blacks, in spite of the Prince Hall Masonry, which is the biggest joke and the biggest scam and the biggest insult to any single race I've ever seen, and especially for women. They do not want you, and they consider you totally ineligible and unable to understand what they do.
You told me something the other night that I found just incredible. You said that you could go to any Prince Hall Lodge in any black community and the doors would be open to you and you'd be welcome. But if one of those members or brothers of the lodge or the Prince Hall Lodge came to your lodge and tried to come in and participate in the ceremonies or whatever you call them, what would happen?
It wouldn't happen. It just simply wouldn't happen. I, as a Caucasian Freemasonry, can visit any Prince Hall Lodge in the country and, as far as I know, in the world. I can also visit any lodge, period, across the world. I've been told through my initiation that I am welcome in any lodge. But this just does not apply to blacks, no matter that, even if the ritual that they go through, and I do not know this for certain, but I know it's similar, but even if the ritual were exact, even if the same form of